Hey there, it's Dr. Andrea here. I am wishing you a fabulous, fabulous day. What are you up to? Have you missed me? I've certainly missed you. I have been traveling around and kind of putting out fires, as it were, and I know, you probably know what that's like. Life kind of keeps going no matter what we try to do. And I've missed you. I've missed being here. So it is lovely to connect with you once again. And I felt really compelled to jump in here right now because I was talking with some lovely people in our group writing course. And one of the people in our course is an expert on surrendering. And I feel like this topic in and of itself merits further discussion, mainly because in my own world, it was, I think, I don't know, back in maybe 2011, when I really came face to face with the need to let go and surrender. And I don't know about you, if that's easy for you to do, but I have been one of those people who is programmed to do, achieve, always be like working on something. And it became really obvious that I had to learn what the French call lâcher prise, which means to let it go. And I've shared before that some of our pain and suffering really comes from us being attached to an outcome, attached to our way, attached to our belief systems. And if we are too rigidly attached to something, that is what can set us up for more pain and suffering. And it can cause us to break or break down. And I know a little bit about that personally. And so I wanted to have a little bit of a discussion about that because I learned it the hard way. It was a few years ago, as I said, when I was first in France. I got really frustrated because things in the south of France move at a whole different pace than how they move in America. You know, the Riviera lifestyle is beautiful. It's very chilled and relaxed. But as an American moving to France, I'm used to things happening quickly and when you ask for them. And the one thing that Americans are actually pretty decent on that the French are still learning is customer service. So you could be in a bar or a restaurant and you won't see your server for a while. And you're like, did they forget I'm here? Why aren't they checking on me? They're just like, no, we're just going to leave you alone. And so when I expressed my frustration at how the internet is really slow and getting things done takes a much longer time, and don't get me started on the French administration when you got to get some paperwork done, people would say, you need to just let that go. You know, lâcher prise. And it frustrated me. But at the end of the day, I knew I had to learn how to let go and be in the flow unless I was going to just drive myself crazy. So I wonder, have you ever experienced any of that? Have you ever experienced the need to let stuff go? If you have, then I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to see what are your strategies and tactics for letting stuff go. Because I can tell you, the greater you become at surrendering or letting go, the faster you let things go, the faster you will get to a happy result. Now, you can imagine it may not necessarily be the result you were previously attached to, but this brings up a question. Are you motivated by peace or are you motivated by being right? You know, we always talk about that in relationships, right? It's like, do we want to be right or do we want to have peace? Because if you want to be right, then that means you're going to be rigidly holding on. You're attached to your point of view. And guess what? If you're attached to something, then you're also putting up resistance to something else. And it is the attachment or the aversion or that resistance that sets us up for suffering. So when we were talking about this with the the folks in our group writing course, and I'm not giving away any secrets, but the lovely Shelley Thomas, who is writing a special book about a year of surrender. It was really interesting because for me, I learned the process of surrender the hard way, like so many of us, right? We get to a point where life is kind of forcing us to, to change. You can change voluntarily and you'll actually reduce the resistance and the pain, or you can wait till life is so painful that you have no other choice but to surrender. And I don't like being motivated by pain, but I'll be honest, it does actually happen quite a bit. I'm not proud of that. I'll be honest. I'm not proud. I'm not proud that I sometimes have to learn the hard way. But I also know that because I'm inherently a teacher and I like for my peeps to not have to go through the same drama that I did, well, I can share my insights with you so that hopefully you don't have to experience the real pain and drama that's associated with it. So what do you do when you need to let go? Are you able to do so willingly, peacefully, easily, or is it something that you struggle with? Chime in if you care to. I'd love to see some of your comments. So this idea that we can choose the amount of suffering that we go through in life might sound a little bit revolutionary to some. I know it certainly did for me. But when you think about it, if you were willing to line up your life with a higher ideal, and most of the people here in my tribe, that's what we all are aiming for, right? We're aiming for living a more heart-centered, soul-inspired, spiritual life where we can actually say that our life is moving us toward our own spiritual growth and evolution. It's making us a better person. It's allowing us to use our strengths, our talents, our passion for not just ourselves, but our families and maybe even the greater good of the planet. And so if that is you, if you're also inspired by this idea of being your best, of living your best life, of really tapping into your authentic self, the best version of you that the divine and you cooked up to be, if you're really ready to co-create your life at a higher standard, then embracing the idea of stillness and surrender have got to be part of your package. I've talked a lot about compassion and how that has to be kind of a regular piece of our overall, life strategy. If we really want to live this spiritual life, we have to be compassionate with ourselves and with others. And this aspect of stillness and surrender is also an element that I don't think a lot of people recognize until they have a breakdown, or they have a breakup, or they hit rock bottom. Because it's when we get to that low, when we are so depleted that we have no choice but to surrender, that people typically will surrender. And so I wonder, how do you honor your body's rhythms, or the sort of rhythms of life that might be calling for you to surrender? Do you already have a practice where you just regularly unplug from social media, from all of your tech and devices, from watching TV? Do you have sort of a ritual or a day of the week where you actually, again, you just go within, or you just go into silence, where you can actually sort of detox, release the junk of our busy life and tune into that higher state of flow? Does anybody out there do that? I'm curious to know. Like, what do you do instantly? So George says, letting go is easier for small things, but sometimes to get to the next level, we have to let go or make a sacrifice. And that is the part that's often a struggle. I hear ya. I hear ya. But I think it's good, though, that you recognize that letting go of the small stuff is sometimes easier. Because sometimes I recommend that you actually start there. Before you start thinking that I've got to let everyone have their own opinion and just be in the state of flow, because that's some advanced stuff. I don't even master it all the time. But a letting go of the little things teaches us that we can let go of that attachment. We can let go and create more space, more openness. Because it's in the letting go that allows us to feel a sense of flow. It's what allows us to tune back into our own resources. Because ultimately, we need to be resourceful, right? We need to be full of those spiritual resources that make us resilient, that make us creative, that make us attractive to others, so that we can work with others in a way that that brings harmony instead of strife. And so I just wonder, so what about you, George? Have you come up with a ritual or a routine that allows you to tap into stillness? One of the things I noticed as I started teaching meditation around the world is a lot of people have resistance to being still and resistance to getting into that quiet meditative state, because there's this reflex that comes in that tells us, what am I doing sitting here? What do you mean just follow my breath? I should be, or I could be sending out emails, running some errands, calling that. Like, we have a long list of things that may come up into our mind as we sit down on our mat or wherever we're doing our meditation practice. But it's in practicing it and doing it repeatedly that we can start to reprogram ourselves. And as we get to that point of being able to be fully present, you let the mind chatter do what it's going to do. Meditation is not about getting rid of thoughts. My friend and colleague, the lovely sister Dr. Jenna from the Meditation Museum in the DC area, in the meditation courses that they teach there, they're always reminding people that getting rid of thoughts is not the objective of meditation. And if you make that your objective, to try to clear your mind of all thought, you're definitely going to be frustrated. And you're definitely going to feel like, oh, I'm not a good meditator because my mind is still full of thoughts. Well, it is the nature of the mind to be full of thoughts and to have these racing ideas coming in. But once you start recognizing that that is the nature of the mind, then you can start to recognize, well, who's having these thoughts? Where do these thoughts come from? And if you don't attach to the thought and go down the rabbit hole that they want to lead you, little by little, you come to realize that you are the witness. You are the consciousness. You are the awareness that is observing these thoughts. And in the practice of meditation or mindfulness, you're just becoming aware of what is there without judgment. Now, that's typically the next hard piece, because, again, as a thought comes up, we're thinking, oh, I shouldn't be thinking this. I should be just following my breath. Or, oh, I shouldn't be feeling so angry and so frustrated. And so anytime those shoulds come in, anytime that judgment comes in, we feel like we're not doing it right. I'm not a good meditator. I'm getting it all wrong. This is a waste of time. But if you would be willing to just accept that this is part of the process, it's part of your training, you're relearning how to be a human being instead of a human judgment machine. Because a being can just sit there and be. When you can be the witness, you can be that soul that is just present and watching, then you don't have to create judgment and labels and blame and guilt and shoulds. You can just let it sit and let it flow and let it be. And it's through this process of stillness, of just looking at what is, without attaching to it, without resisting it, without judging it, that we eventually get to the point where we can let go, where you can let go of the judgment, the to-do list. And it may not happen all at once. And you may find that some days you're better at it than other days. But with the time and repetition, you really will start to sit in the power of who you are as a spiritual being. And if you're willing to kind of get through that initial resistance and frustration and surrender, even if it's only for 5 minutes. I tell my students all the time, when you go into a session, just make an agreement for the next 5 minutes. I'm going to allow myself to be present with my thoughts. I'm going to allow myself to focus on my breathing. I'm going to allow myself to stop judging myself or beating myself up in my head. I'm going to allow myself, just for 5 minutes, to not project anger and irritability at so-and-so. And if you're willing to do it for 5 minutes, that's okay. It doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. I mean, we're all on the planet on our path to becoming enlightened and awakened, and we'll get there. Maybe this lifetime, maybe another lifetime. You'll get there. So rather than beating yourself up, do it in small increments, because that's going to prove to yourself and quiet down the ego to say you're not a bad person just because you have thoughts. You're not a bad person just because over time you've developed this tendency to be mean or judgmental or whatever. That's the nature of humans. We're programmable. And we also have the natural ability to overwrite that programming. When we start talking about neuroplasticity, all the habits that we've developed, even the habit of being pessimistic, we can overwrite that. And we can actually retrain our brain to look on the more positive side. And so that's what I'm inviting you to explore, if you are so willing to do that. So let's see what we have here. We have some comments from Michael Patterson. Says, every morning as you rise, you are grateful and you let go of the previous day and you prepare for the coming day, knowing that you will give your best. You may fail to do so, but you carry on aspiring to give your best. I love that, Michael. Like that is mindfulness at its best. Like honestly, because mindfulness, if you really break down like this whole idea about mindfulness meditation, mindfulness is just about being in the present moment, aware of what is without judging it. And I think sometimes what trips us up when it comes to mindfulness is that we feel so attached to what happened yesterday that we don't appreciate what's here right now. And this happens so much in our relationships. We expect people to be the same all the time. And so much so that we anticipate who is going to show up. Oh, I know exactly who that person is and what they are, for better or for worse. But mindfulness is about tuning into the present with the openness of mind to say, I'm going to suspend judgment about what that person was yesterday and just see who they are today. And I can tell you from personal experience that it requires courage to be willing to see somebody in their present. And if someone has previously been really mean and evil, allowing yourself the possibility that they could change, that they might, in the words of Snoop and John Legend, I can change. People can change. They can evolve. And the opposite is also true. There may be someone that you're in a relationship with, or you've gone into a partnership with, and they might have been angelic when they came in. And through the course of time, or through the course of having different values, different visions for the future, different goals or aspirations, or just the aging of our lives and our brains, people change. People who were once saints can start acting like sinners or evil people. And that can be really hard for us to accept, but sometimes we have to be in that present moment and say, wow, at this present time, this person that I had previously relied upon and loved and shared so many wonderful moments is not the same. Because if you fail to do that, not only can that person end up hurting you or you hurting them, but you deny them the power of getting healing. So sometimes you have to be able to call a spade a spade. so that then you can redirect your energy towards maybe showering them with love or healing, or connecting them with resources so that they can get into their right state of mind. And yes, sometimes it requires you breaking up with them. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to do that. And the lovely Shireen says, oh, this is a big one. Shireen says, bless you and the tribe for raising the platform of unconditional joy. My pleasure. So recently you've been allowing yourself to believe that I profoundly share a lot of love and connections for more peace in our world. And this has been aided by your routine to chant Nam Myoho Renge Kyo twice a day. And you choose to experience this multifaceted dynamism at the center of your life, and then you feel less attached to only one way of being. You feel more space and expansiveness. Oh, Shireen, I love that. I love that. You know, there's somebody else in our tribe who chants Nam Myoho Renge Kyo. Trevor Hahn. I don't know if you've seen some of his posts. And that was one of the things that somebody shared with my mom years ago, before I was even into chanting. And they would get on the phone together and just chant. So I love it. You're right. It definitely can brighten your day and inspire different perspectives. And George says, yes, you started owing your mornings, or do you mean owning your mornings? You give thanks first to be alive, then you're grateful for your kids and a few important things. Next, you focus on the few goals that you want to see, and you imagine it already done. I like that. And that ritual helps you start the day in a great frame of mind so you can be of service to others. It takes practice, but without it, someone else will steal your thoughts. Oh, isn't that the truth, George? I mean, like so many of us, the first thing people do is they reach for their smartphone. You know, they're allowing someone else to influence their thoughts and their focus for the day. So I love that you're opening up the day with gratitude and really tuning into you, what you want to experience, just like what Michael was saying about envisioning what you want to have happen for the day. Because I tell you, if you allow it, and again, this is just the nature of humanity. We're programmable. The media, our family, our friends, our religious leaders, all of that can influence how we show up in the world and what we choose to believe and how we choose to act. But there comes a time, I believe, and I think the time is now. I'm biased, but I believe the time is now for us to reconnect to our source, the source of who we really are, not just as human doings and acquirers of stuff, but as this spiritual being that is connected to the divine source. And if you tune into your higher self or your guides, how many of you have guides or angels or maybe somebody who's passed on who still inspires you or gives you little nudges or messages or your own intuition? Like, this is the time for us to reconnect with who we are as spiritual beings. Because it's in the stillness and the surrender that we can tap into this vast resource of creativity. And that's how we can become co-creators with the divine, co-creators with our higher self to manifest something much more magical on the planet than what we're currently seeing. And the beautiful Jacqueline Haley says, such a great topic to address. Thank you. Some go through the most intense trauma, and seeing their strength shine through, it's so inspiring. And it's during these times that we need to really think about the food and the thoughts that we feed ourselves. Absolutely. And really looking at it as food. Like, what are you nourishing yourself with? Because if we're not willing to look at our lives and our brains and our energetic life as something that requires an ongoing maintenance process, we can find that we get knocked on our booty. And that includes me. I recently had a sort of texting conversation with one of the people from the Real Self-Love movement, Taz Thornton, in the UK. And I was asking her some questions. Like, she's really advanced in these deep practices and rituals for, spiritual protection connecting with our guides and these other realms. I mean, she's written about it in her book, one of the books that I reviewed. I'm blanking on the name. I was going to say Voices from the Earth. So anyway, check out Taz Thornton. All of her stuff is great. But one of the things that we were talking about yesterday was this idea. Some of us call it spiritual hygiene. So just like you wouldn't leave the house, I hope, without at least brushing your teeth. Okay, maybe you don't shower right out, if you got to run an errand, but you probably are at least going to brush your teeth, right? So that you're not like killing folks. Well, we need to have the same sort of spiritual or energetic hygiene where we look after our own energetic presence to clean off any of the debris, and especially for those of us who are in service, whether that's as healers, healthcare professionals, mentors, and coaches. If you're coming into contact with people who are struggling emotionally, psychologically, or even physically, many of the empaths, the light workers, the high sensitivity people, we can kind of take on a lot of energy from other people. And it's just because of our big compassionate hearts, right? We want to be out there. We want to serve. We want to love. We want to heal. And I think I have been guilty of not recognizing the need for a routine cleanse. And I mean like an energetic cleanse. I'm not talking about a colonic. I know I have plenty of my people in here who are like always trying to extol the benefits of a colonic. But I'm saying that I've been in places where if I was in a healthcare setting, because I'm a doctor, used to do a lot of public health work, there would be times when I definitely had to come home and not only take a physical shower, but I needed to like energetically clear off the emotions and the energy and the stuff that I was exposed to. And I would do that on a regular basis. But I think sometimes we can forget that just one conversation or one interaction with someone who's either not quite in their right mind or they've taken on some negative energy or entities, that one interaction could affect us. And so we need to have a daily practice and a daily routine. And in fact, you will probably see that I will interview Taz on her some of her insights, because as she shares in the book, Whispers from the Earth, and she talks about how, we can tap into the energy of our ancestors and spirit animals and nature. And in her book, Unleash Your Awesome, which is a practical self-help manual, but really talks about her own personal story, which is like over and beyond, right? She's like come back from multiple breakdowns. I just really value her insight and her input on how we have to take ownership of our energetic presence, whether you call some of what surrounds you as your aura, your auric field, whatever it is. I'm sure you've probably noticed that there's some people who you get next to and you can automatically feel like your body tense up or the hairs on the back of your neck stand up. There's this ickiness or this vibe. So learning how to be really good about cleansing that and owning your part in your own sort of hygiene. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. So, beautiful Faida, I'm so sorry to hear that you have been under the weather, and we haven't been here, but I'm sending you positive healing energy over the airwaves. And all of my other healers out there, let us wish Faida a rapid, safe, and full return to full vitality. I'm glad that you're getting better. And yes, I have missed you too. I have missed being on my Facebook Live and YouTube Live. I miss it because there's something magical that happens when we connect. And that's one of the reasons why I'm really excited to start sharing more of the master classes with some of the beautiful people who've helped me on my own spiritual journey, because I am still learning. I am still leveling up my skills on a daily basis, literally. So in the Real Self-Love movement, I will be co-hosting masterclasses with a bunch of different real self-love leaders. And I truly consider them leaders because in their own right, they have mastered the ability to teach and to live the truth of what it means to truly love your real self and to be your real self. And I think the more that we're able to share that with this community, the more that we all get lifted up. And there, if you'd like to join us on this real self-love journey, you'll see that my friend, my colleague, my partner in craziness, Helena Philipson in Denmark, is taking a very active role in supporting the online community and the Real Self-Love Days. We are going to be getting together in person in Denmark first and in the United States to provide you with a full day of inspiration and joy, connecting with a lot of the Real Self-Love leaders in each of the various regions. So you can fly in, be with us in person, or you can watch online. But there's this real need, in my opinion, for us to actually physically get together every now and then. So a few times a year, we'll have these Real Self-Love Days, so that as you're watching the master classes, totally free, everything's free, by the way, except for the in-person things. There are some expenses. But you can join the Real Self-Love movement and totally for free get access to the Real Self-Love Manifesto, some of the guided meditations and other mantras, and of course, all of the live master classes. So just visit realself.love. And we also have a Real Self-Love Facebook group. There's an open and a closed one. So if you need support and community, that's what we're here to provide. And another person who's helping me in this beautiful mission is the lovely Helena Goldstein, who is the founder of the Joy Keepers Network. So these are two of my fabulous partners who are helping to manage the online and the in-person stuff. Because this is really a time, in my opinion, that we are all of us on the planet, and definitely those of us that consider ourselves spiritual or spiritual seekers, we are being called to level up. And by up-leveling, I mean we're being called to do what is necessary to increase our spiritual awareness, to tap into our spiritual gifts, and to express our real self and use our gifts to help other people. I think there's an awakening that's going on the planet, and it's surpassed a certain level that now kind of everybody's waking up. I mean, when you see the word #woke appearing in pop culture, they didn't want to talk about awakening or being awakened because that sounds too spiritual. But you see the young people talking about being woke. So this awakening is really reaching a critical mass. And I believe that any of us that are in service to others or wishing to be part of the awakening, we've got to elevate our game. And that means our personal skills. Like for me, I know that I've spent 7.5 years in the south of France doing my meditation and my Qigong and my retreats. And it got me to a certain level of proficiency, of doing healings and doing activations and all this cool stuff. And then I got to a new level. And it was like, whoa, I got to up level. I got to increase my skills and my awareness and my ability to rock that new level. It's kind of like a video game for anyone who's, old enough to remember Atari, or going to the arcade. It's like at each level of a video game, you have new skills that you have to master. Sometimes you get new weapons or new, gear. And that's what we are doing right now as a collective humanity. We are evolving in our consciousness. And so we've got to take active steps towards up-leveling our skills and our awareness and our ability to show up as our authentic self, to still radiate and beam love and compassion, but to do it with consciousness and awareness. And I think it's one of the things that I want to be a part of. And I'll tell you, part of that is scary because, shoot, you start doing stuff that other people have never heard of, and then all of a sudden it's like, who are you to be blah, blah, blah. Well, that's just the nature of life, right? So, hello, Hilda. She says, so true. I have been practicing to say thank you, but you wouldn't receive a gift. Also, the gift is bad behavior or words. We have to choose our gift and thoughts as an everyday practice. Absolutely. So it's good that you've gotten to the point where you can say thank you. And now sometimes you got to be able to receive the gift or refuse the gift. But that's about discernment, right? Discernment, or being able to judge. And I don't mean the judgment of that's bad, you're bad, nah, nah, nah. I mean being able to judge or discern if something is really for you. Glad you're loving this, Michael. We have to develop that skill. And, this has been a really challenging one for me and some of the people in my tribe, because when I really stepped onto this path of becoming a warrior for compassion, we are trained to wish all beings on the planet freedom from suffering. I wish that all of us can know true happiness and the causes of happiness, that we can all be free from suffering. And it involves tuning into or recognizing each other on a soul level, not at the level of the ego where we got all our drama, or even higher than the soul is really tapping into the spirit of another person, which is totally pure and perfect. The soul, it kind of accumulates karma and imprints, even genetic imprints and cultural imprints handed down through generations of time. But beyond that, on a spiritual level, when we learn to really recognize that we're each a perfect spirit, we're each an offshoot of the divine, and we all deserve love and happiness. And yet, you have to get to a point, even as a compassion warrior, as a bodhisattva, as we're called, to recognize that sometimes there are people who are in their confusion, in their darkness, in some of their karmic imprints. They can't be super close to you. So you got to kind of wish them that compassion from afar. And that's where that discernment and judgment comes in. So getting back to our topic of letting go, being willing to be still and surrender. Surrender used to have a bad connotation or a negative connotation to me. It doesn't anymore. Because previously I thought of surrender is giving up. But surrender is not about giving up. Surrender is about releasing your attachment. It's about letting go and letting enough space, enough openness that new ideas can drop in from a higher state of awareness or consciousness. Because the opposite of surrender, that idea of being attached or having blinders on, where you're only focused on one outcome, that puts you at a disadvantage. And so if you can hopefully take from today's conversation the need to at least investigate how you can embody or embrace stillness as part of your routine, then I think this would do you some good. Because it's very tempting for us to fill every moment of the day with stuff, with busyness. It used to be a reflex for me that if I had 10 minutes before my next call, I'd think, okay, well, how many emails can I fire off? Who should I call real quick? And sometimes with those little extra 5 minutes here or 10 minutes there, we've got to just say, you know what, I'm just going to be still. It's just the same thing as taking a drink of water or brushing your teeth, to just let go of the anxious tension. Let go of that drama and trauma to reconnect to your source, to reconnect to that divine light that is within all of us. Because when you rest or surrender or go into stillness or meditation, that's when you resource, which means you reconnect to the source and you reaccumulate that spiritual power. And yes, I'm with you, Hilda. Surrender is freedom. It really is. Surrender is where the freedom comes in. We think that surrender means giving up and I'm losing my I'm losing my way. But no, surrender is freedom, because then you're free to choose that something even better or even higher that can be for the good of all. And then George says someone shared a meditation called the release meditation with you, where you chant it quietly for 20 to 30 minutes, moving from one task to the next. No, I haven't heard of that. I haven't heard of it, but it is something that many people, as we start to teach others about meditation, some people, I would tell you to focus on your breath. Some people, they do better focusing on a mantra. And for some people, focusing on a word. So many times when we start teaching meditation, we'll tell people to breathe in and imagine the word let. And exhale, you imagine the word go, or you repeat the word in your mind, go. So it's let go. So repeating the word release is a great way to just remind yourself, release, release, release. I generally do, every now and then, do a repetition of it's actually a root syllable called Shri, but for most people, they just pronounce it Re. So you could just repeat Re, 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 Re with every breath. So it could be release. It could be refuel. So part of what we do with Qigong, for example, Qigong is a practice that involves movement, breath, meditation, and even visualization. And so in one of the Qigong practices that I teach, I will teach people to breathe in the word re, or the syllable re, 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 and you're receiving. You imagine that you're opening to receive that healing energy, that new wisdom, that new information. And then as you exhale, and you're still saying re, 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 you're releasing, or you think I'm removing, I'm releasing, I'm relaxing. Because on the out breath, that's when you let go of anything that's in your cells or in your consciousness that needs to be let go. So anyway, these are just some ideas that you can consider. And I just spoke about you earlier, Halina. Good to have you here. Yes, it is very close to your heart, I'm sure, and I'm sure you can teach a lot on surrender. Helena says, as we surrender, we can more and more experience the stillness, even when active or interacting with others. Such light and joy there for us to feel and express in the world. Indeed, indeed. So this is just a reminder to practice this throughout your day. I love that you hint at that even when we're interacting with others, to surrender, let go of your agenda, let go of your mind thinking, okay, when is this person going to be done so I can get on to my next thing? Just surrender, just release, just let go. Try to connect with the stillness and see what it brings you. So you can get more wisdom from the lovely Halina and some of our other Real Self-Love leaders by joining us at the Real Self-Love movement, realself.love. And I'm excited about it because this is an opportunity for us to share these master classes. I'll be sharing information from my book over here called I Love You Me. Actually, I'm going to be very happy to share it on the screen. Da, 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 da. So my most recent book, I Love You Me, which includes the 5-step process that I take you through to develop real self-love and to know your real self, your authentic self. So in the next few weeks, I will be sharing completely free videos going through each of the chapters of the book so that you really learn how to put these 5 steps into practice and make it a part of your life. So join us. I'm going to jump off of here because I have a meeting with Helena and some other good people in 15 minutes. And rather than filling these 15 minutes of just chatter, I'm going to go have some stillness and surrender time. So my friends, whether you're here live or you're catching us on the replay, I thank you so much for being here. And for those of you that did miss me over these last couple of weeks, thank you for sending all the love and the support and the light. It has meant so much to me, and I literally have felt it. So just know that even if we're away from each other, there's still so much love and support from this community. And I love, love, love that we're all so connected. So you are welcome, George. Thank you for being here. I have to thank my brother, what's up, Big G, who's been such a huge support for me and my daughter with all of our traveling. Thank you, Gerald. And Hilda, I'm glad that you were here. I'm so, so, so glad that you've made surrender a way of life for you. And Shirley, thank you for joining us. I love seeing some new faces pop up. I'm glad that you were here. Thank you for sharing with us. And Shireen, I'm so glad to see your name pop up because I haven't seen you in a while, but know that you are always in my heart. And yeah, I understand what you mean. It's scary to begin with and then realize you were allowing yourself to live in love more authentically. Wow. Wow. And being attached to your identity as an activist and feminist was killing you. Wow. Girl, we could talk so much about that in and of itself, about our attachment to labels, even the good labels. Wow, wow, wow. All right. So anyway, I thank you guys for being here. And Faida, you wanted a signed copy of the book and a journal? Okay. Well, send me a message, or I'll send you a message in just a little bit. And I will get you a copy of the book or a copy of journals. Now that I'm in America, I actually have a box full of extra journals. But I would probably send it to you next week when I'm on that side of the map, because international shipping from America is not very fun. But anyway, my friends, enough about that. Send me a private message if you have questions or ideas or anything that you would like for me to address in one of these live videos. Please know that I am surrounding you with much love and positivity. Please be mindful of taking care of yourself, letting go of what you need to let go of, the drama, the trauma, the strife, and all of that. Just let it go. And do remember that you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Bye. See you next time.